So today, Archanadi, if you have the text, you can start reading.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, page 184.
Yeah.
Yasmin,
But all this.
Yasmin, do you have the text?
Yes, I have it. Do you want me to read?
You read second, because I've already told Archanadi to read.
Okay, okay. Fine.
So, but
all this can only constitute a greater inner life with a greater possibility of the outer action and is a transitional achievement. The full transformation can come only by the ascent of the sacrifice to its farthest heights and its action upon life with the power and light and beatitude of the divine supramental gnosis. For then alone, all the forces that are divided and express themselves imperfectly in life and its works are raised to their original unity, harmony, single truth, authentic absoluteness, and entire significance. There, knowledge and will are one, love and force, a single movement. The opposition that afflict us here are resolved into their reconciled unity. Good develops its absolute, and the evil, divesting itself of its error, returns to the good that was behind it. Sin and virtue vanish in a divine purity and an infallible truth movement. The dubious evanescence of pleasure disappears in a bliss that is the play of an eternal and happy spiritual certitude, and pain in perishing discovers the touch of an ananda which was betrayed by some dark perversion and incapacity of the will of the inconscient to receive it. These things to the mind and imagination are a mystery become evident and capable of experience as the consciousness rises out of limited embodied matter mind to the freedom and fullness of the higher and higher range of the superintelligence. But they can become entirely true and normal only when the supramental becomes the law of the nature.
okay. So let's have a look
The
at
next,
Yeah.
the next is 4 lines. Should I read that also?
Yes, do that. Do that.
It is therefore on the accomplishment of his ascent and on the possibility of a full dynamism from these highest levels descending into earth consciousness that is dependent the justification of life, its salvation, its transformation into a divine life in a transfigured terrestrial nature.
Yeah. Okay. So we go back to the beginning of the but all this can only constitute. So again, as usual, I will read the summary of what she said earlier so that we get the continuity. Okay. So what she said in the previous one. How can this little outer nature of body, life, mind, but these are my words, not Srinivas's words. I have just summarized. How can this, sometimes I had a question to make it clear what he's dealing with. Okay. I might as well mention that sometimes Srinivas proceeds and says something, and it is up to the reader to find out what he is talking about. So it's always better after reading the paragraph to frame a question to yourself and see what is he answering. And that is a very interesting exercise because then you get clarity about what he's saying. Read the paragraph and then say, okay, what's he saying? What is he answering? Okay. So sometimes I put a question before the summary itself. What he's saying here is like this. How can this little outer nature of body, life, and mind achieve liberation, mastery, perfection without the knowledge of the whole universal being, with all its various parts described above in the previous para? Therefore, the divine Shakti, when the individual has surrendered, integralizes the whole being and its various parts are now interlocked harmoniously. The little wave can never know the ocean. Okay? Can never know the vast ocean. So this is what you said in the previous paragraph. Okay, so just 1 second. And there are many words there which we will have to look into to see exactly what is meaning. Just 1 second. I'm recording this. So he is saying that when we go to the higher level of consciousness, the integralization starts taking place. What is meant by integralization? We find that there is a disharmony between our mind, our vital, and our body. That we have discussed many times. The mind wants something, but the body is not capable of doing what it wants. The vital also wants something, but the body is not capable. The vital wants something, and the mind says, no, that's not correct, that's wrong. So all sorts of things like that. And so the disharmony starts becoming less and less when you go to level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness. But it remains incomplete and can become complete only at the highest supramental level. Okay. This is what we say. Now we reread what we have read today. But all this can only constitute a greater inner life with a greater possibility of the outer action and is a transitional achievement. Even when you go to level 2 and start integralizing yourself, it is not the final solution. That's what he said. It's only a transitional achievement. It's a much greater possibility. Naturally, when you are in level 2, you are in a spiritual consciousness, you come to know much more. You may even be able to transform your mind. The light will come into your mind and transform it. The vital may remain untransformed, but a very good yogi can even transform his vital, but he has not yet transformed his body. So that's why Sarva is saying it is transitional achievement. When will the full transformation come, please? That's what he's saying in the next phrase. The full transformation can come only by the ascent of the sacrifice to its farthest heights and its action upon life with the power and light and beatitude of the divine supramental gnosis. So the full transformation includes the divinization of the body also. And that can happen only when the sacrifice is taken to the height. And that height is divine supramental gnosis. Otherwise, changes can occur in the body with a supramental, with a spiritual realization. Changes can occur in the body, but the transformation does not take place. And changes occurring in the body is experienced by many, many yogis. And in those cases, even the skin color became absolutely different. His teeth started becoming more white. His toenails started changing. Okay. And he did not need to use hair oil because the hair was getting automatically oiled. Okay, all these things are there in the record of yoga and elsewhere. Question.
So Rangata,
yeah,
the transformation also will happen little by little. It's not that the whole thing transforms at a time.
Exactly. It's always a gradation. Remember, I keep repeating, the gradation is an extremely important principle. Everything is graded. From the top to the bottom, there's gradation of everything. So you go step by step, step by step. And it's more like a ramp, not a staircase. Even a staircase also you can, but the ramp is more appropriate image. Okay, so that's what it's saying. Full transformation only at the highest level. But much change can occur even in the spiritual planes of consciousness. Then he's saying, in the spiritual divine supramental gnosis, for then alone, all the forces that are divided and express themselves imperfectly in life. Which are the forces? Mental force, vital energy, bodily capacity, all these are the forces, but they are divided. They don't cooperate with each other and express themselves imperfectly in life. My mind is, there is, however intelligent I am, there is a little bit of a ignorance, not little bit, lot of ignorance. The vital is impure and the body is incapable. All these things are always there. Huh? So, for then alone in the supramental, all the forces that are divided and express themselves imperfectly in life and its works are raised to their original unity, harmony, single truth, authentic absoluteness, and entire significance. We come to know the purpose of everything. There, knowledge and will are one. Consciousness, Chit Shakti, consciousness and force are one, not separate. As in our physical world, they're separate, but not there. Love and force become a single movement. Okay, love and force. That's very interesting because love and force in the physical world are different. The usual example given is very clear. When there is a man who is a criminal and he has been brought to the judge can use the force of justice and put him into prison. But he may also take a very compassionate attitude with love and say, no, we will not punish him, but we will try and reform him. So let him be given. Even in that's the principle nowadays in all prisons, they try to give them a profession, either a carpentry or something else. So they teach you how to make things. So that is but in the supramental, they are all one, love and force. The opposites that afflict us here, the dualities, are resolved in their reconciled unity. And now, very interesting what he's saying, we'll look at it carefully. Good develops its absolute and evil, divesting itself of its error, returns to the good that was behind it. Okay? So, good and evil are not opposites at the highest level. In our world, they are opposites. But behind the evil also, there is a good. Because they are not opposite, but they are two poles of the same thing. Okay, I'll give you one instance which is there very much to be used in the Taika is there in the kindergarten. So sometimes you will feel the children are very mischievous. Okay, but their energy has to be channeled into the right direction. That energy is sometimes going off into the wrong directions. So that has to be channeled. That is exactly what Swami is saying. Good develops its absolute and evil, divesting itself, getting rid of its error, returns to the good that was always behind it. Sin and virtue vanish in a divine purity and an infallible truth movement. Then the dubious evanescence, the transitoriness, evanescence, the dubious, doubtful disappearance, evanescence of pleasure, disappearance in a bliss that is the play of an eternal and happy spiritual certitude. So, pleasure can become permanent, and when it becomes permanent in the highest level, it is not pleasure anymore, it is ananda or a bliss. That is the play of an eternal and happy spiritual certitude. And pain in perishing discovers the touch of an ananda which was betrayed by some dark perversion and incapacity of the will of the inconscient to receive it. Now, that's very interesting. Pain does disappear when you go into the spiritual planes of consciousness. That was the Buddhist solution. Okay? You are having pain and suffering, go to the spiritual planes of consciousness. Get rid of your identification with body, mind, life. No more pain. Because your connection with the body, mind, life is cut off. So you will not feel the pain. The body will feel the pain, but you are not in touch with it. Okay. So you will not feel the pain. Ananda is betrayed by some dark perversion and incapacity of the will of the inconscient to receive. These things to the mind and imagination, this one said. Yeah, these things to the mind and imagination are a mystery. Why mystery? Because pain is a mystery. Pain and suffering, you wonder why God created pain and what is the purpose? So that is the mystery. And these things which are to the mind and imagination are a mystery, become evident and capable of experience as the consciousness rises out of the limited embodied matter mind. So even your mind is attached to matter. Your mind is brain originated and brain is matter, okay? And embodied to the freedom and fullness of the higher and higher ranges of the super intelligence. But they can become entirely true and normal only when supermental becomes a law of the nature. So that is the aim in the interior yoga. Don't stop. Go on progressing, progressing, progressing. Even when you have reached the level 2 of the spiritual plane of consciousness, don't stop there, just like the others are doing. Of course, you can stop if you are not a follower of Sri Aurobindo. But if you are a follower of Sri Aurobindo, you have to keep on. It is therefore on the accomplishment of this ascent and on the possibility of a full dynamism. Now, what does it mean by dynamism? Because in the spiritual planes of consciousness, there is a refusal to be accepted, to accept the physical world. So that's not dynamic at all. So the body mind life remains the same, or to a certain extent it may change. Okay, as I said, the mind may change, the vital also can change if you go to the higher levels of spiritual consciousness. Even in level 2, there are 4 or 5 grades. Again, we come back to the idea of gradation. So, but the full dynamism, in other words, the full power to even change your body, control your mind, and make your vital absolutely pure and full of ananda is possible only at the supramental level. That's what it is. Okay. The accomplishment of this ascent and on the possibility of a full dynamism from these highest levels descending into our consciousness, that is dependent. The justification of life, its salvation, its transformation into a divine life in a transfigured terrestrial nature. Now, Surendra is using a very interesting word which he uses again and again, the justification of life. What exactly does he mean? Because if you are in the normal consciousness, you feel that life is full of suffering, pain, problems, perversions. Okay? And you feel that this is horrible. I want to give it up, like the Buddhist is doing at the Mayavada. But if you go to the highest level, you will feel that, oh, all these things are justified because there is a meaning in them. Okay? If the evil is there, it is that which will goad you to the good. So all this perversion, pain is a hammer of the gods in Savitri, remember. So then when you go to the highest level, you find that, oh, the misunderstanding of what I thought was eternal pain and suffering, now I can understand it as purpose. So it gets justified. Okay, that's what it means by justification. The problem that you had earlier and which you thought are absolutely negative, now you realize that they are not so negative as you thought them to be. They have a purpose. So justification of its salvation, the mukti, its transformation. So these are the levels. First, there is the life with its imperfections. Then there is salvation. You get mukti. You get rid of your identification with body, mind, life, and go up. Finally, you go up even to the third level, transformation into a divine life in a transfigured terrestrial nature. Even in the physical world, terrestrial nature, individually as well as even collectively, there will be a different type of life and So now we can go to the next section. Yasmin will read, and again very small paras, so 2 paras Yasmin will definitely read. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
What is the difference between transformation and transfiguration?
Oh, I think it depends on the context.
Because
Transformation.
both the words are used in the last sentence.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, so let me see carefully. Transformation. Okay. I think it's a very good question. Just now we spoke of 3 levels, huh? So the first is the imperfection of life, level 1. Then its transformation into a divine life is level 3, transformation into a divine life in a transfigured terrestrial nature. Okay, transfigured terrestrial nature would be the level 2, but in a transfigured terrestrial nature. But there is another thing. Even in the terrestrial nature, okay, there are figures. That's why I'm using the word transfigure. All the forms in the physical world are representations, symbols, and figures in the physical world. So they will, however, even if they are changed, they will not be divine. The stone will remain a stone, but it will be transfigured in this sense that you will see it in a totally different way. Okay, so not fully divinized, but transfigured. That is still nature. Maybe you can interpret that way, but you can also say, I would have to ask Srirendo what you mean by transformation. Transformation into a divine life is very clear. Okay, that's the Superman.
Can Ranga, the transfigured can be used for physical things and transformation for mind and nature? Is that it?
It depends on the context how you are using the word. Huh? That's the whole problem with the language. Language is very limited, and each one understands in his own way. It depends on what you mean. Here, transformation into a divine life is very clear. He is talking of the life in the physical world becoming transformed when your consciousness attains to the supramental. Then your connection with the body is there, and the life also gets transformed. The transfigured terrestrial nature. So it depends absolutely on the context, how we are using the word. Transfiguration he has used many other places also, and we have to see very carefully the context. Okay, so, and also all these questions we cannot answer absolutely because none of us are able to understand fully how Sridhar used the words. To a certain extent from the context, we can understand, but not fully. So, I must say that what I understood, I understood transformation to be full, and transfiguration, I understood it to be not fully transformed, but certainly not the old nature, transfigured. Because I am giving a different meaning to figure. Figure, symbol, representation. Okay, this is the physical world. They are all symbols. So, but they are changed, slightly changed. Transfigured. Okay, let's read the next 2 paragraphs. Yes, ma'am.
The nature of the integral yoga, so conceived, so conditioned, progressing by these spiritual means, turning upon the integral transformation of the nature, determines of itself its answer to the question of the ordinary activities of life and their place in the yoga. There is not and cannot be here any ascetic or contemplative or mystic abandonment of works and life altogether, any gospel of an absorbed mediation and inactivity, any cutting away or condemnation of the life force and its activities, any rejection of the manifestation in the earth nature. It may be necessary for the seeker at any period to withdraw into himself, to remain plunged in his inner being, to shut out from him the noise and turmoil of the life of the ignorance until a certain inner change has been accomplished or something achieved without which a further effective action on life has become difficult or impossible. But this can only be a period or an episode, a temporary necessity or a preparatory spiritual maneuver. It cannot be the rule of the yoga or its principle.
Yeah. Okay, so very clear what he's saying. Sometimes you may have to temporarily withdraw, but no permanent withdrawal from the physical world is allowed in the integral yoga. So, quickly we'll go through each sentence. Okay, the nature of the integral yoga, so conceived, so conditioned. So, he is putting the condition that you need to have absolutely, you have to reach the top. Don't stop in the middle. That's a condition. So conceived that entire body, mind, life has to be transformed. That is the conception in the integral yoga. Progressing by these spiritual means, level 2 means, we have to use that. Turning upon the integral transformation. Now he is using the word transformation and is putting the integral there, so it becomes very clear. There is no ambiguity here. Integral transformation of the nature, including the body, okay, determines of itself its answer to the question of the ordinary activities of life and their place in the yoga. Many people ask this question, where does the ordinary life change into, which is the borderline between ordinary life and spiritual life? So mother and says, and Srila also say, there is no line at all. Everything can be changed into the spiritual life. Suppose you are a businessman, even that can be made into a spiritual life. Normally, they would say that business and politics and all that are not to be done. But in the ashram, we had a principle that politics is not to be indulged. Why? Because it pollutes and you are not yet mature enough. That's why. There are rules in the ashram because we are not mature enough. But if the spiritual realizations are achieved, then no rules apply. No rules. But in the ashram, rules apply because we are imperfect. Okay? No sex, no smoking, no drinking, no politics. These are the 4 things which are banned. But if you are in a spiritual condition, even these things go away. Remember the Gita says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. No dharma is now applicable to the supreme identification with the divine. He will do everything for you. Okay, so this is what he's saying. That is question. In other words, determines of itself its answer to the question of the ordinary activities of life and their place in the yoga. All activities can be included in the yoga, in the integral yoga. No activity need be banned. Temporarily, yes, but not ultimately. That's what he's saying. And the funny thing is, and I always say that with some, because then the problem comes home very forcefully. Even a man who is supposed to be an executioner, okay, the hangman, as they say, okay, even his life also can become, theoretically, it can become yogic. It can be part of yoga. So, I'm reading the next sentence. There is not and cannot be here. Here means in the integral yoga. Any ascetic or contemplative or mystic abandonment of words. So, no rejection of the physical world at all the levels. Whether you are an ascetic or you are a contemplative, even a mystic. Okay? There need not be a rejection of the physical world. That's what he's saying. Abandonment of works and life altogether. Sometimes you have to temporarily withdraw, but not altogether. Any gospel of an absorbed meditation and inactivity like the Jnana yogis do. Okay? That also is not allowed in the interior. Any cutting away or condemnation of the life force and its activities. So, even if you are, he is talking of the absorbed meditation, okay, and the condemnation of the life force. So, we come from mind to life force. Any rejection of the manifestation in the earth nature. So, he has included all mind, life, and body. Okay, any rejection of the manifestation in earth nature, physical. Then life force, condemnation of life force, vital. And absorbed meditation, mental. So all these activities are perfectly in consonance, in harmony with this interior yogic effort. Nothing will be rejected. But there is a condition. It may be necessary for the seeker at any period to withdraw into himself, to remain plunged in his inner being, to shut out from him the noise and turmoil of the life of the ignorance until a certain inner change has been accomplished or something achieved, without which a further effective action on life has become difficult or impossible. This, what Swami is saying, can be compared to the municipality putting plants on the footpaths. Okay? And when you are putting plants on the footpath, if you leave them unprotected, the goats and the cows will come in Pondicherry, certainly they'll come and eat up the plant. So your effort will become zero. So that's exactly what he's saying. You have to protect yourself. If you protect it with a fence, in a metal fence or a plastic fence, they do that, no? You will see in the beginning. Once it becomes quite big, then the fence can be taken out. Okay? So exactly in the same way, when you are kacha, okay, when you are immature, you have to protect yourself sometimes, not necessarily. It may be necessary, so he is saying, to withdraw into himself, to remain plunged in his inner being. So, suppose you are a footballer, and while playing football, all your attention is going only for that. And after play also, you are analyzing what I should have done, what I should not have done. So if you, as a footballer, feel that this football is absolutely not allowing me to do my yoga, then you withdraw for it temporarily. That's why I have given the worst example of the footballer, because it's physical activity. Okay? Even there are many people in Pondicherry who have come and asked me, see, I'm doing business, okay? But I don't feel like doing business. Should I close down the business? Okay? So, you don't need to close down. Okay? Because if you close down also, there are many problems, other problems also. There is one person who was selling liquor, okay, in Pondicherry, and he had a turn. Okay? He started very much, he became turned to mother and sister-in-law, and he was contemplating stopping that business and going into other businesses, maybe selling cycles and things like that. But conditions were such that he could not. Okay. So maybe that was his guidance. He was a very developed person, and this is what Shilpa is saying. So temporarily you can withdraw, but never permanently. But this can only be a period or an episode, a temporary necessity or a preparatory spiritual maneuver. It cannot be the rule of this yoga or its principle. Okay, so we have got some time, we have got 4 or 5 minutes. Maybe we can read the next para. It's not a very big one, we can read it. So, can I request?
Rangadhar,
Yeah, tell me.
I was on the way when we were discussing this transfiguration and transformation. Transfiguration and transformation. So, what from the sentence, what I feel is transformation is the inner change, the complete change of consciousness, and
Okay.
transfiguration is only the outer change, not yet the complete inner change.
Yeah,
So, what
maybe.
he is saying,
Yeah.
because what he is saying here is he's telling of Transformation into a divine life. That means totally the transformation we have, and the transfigured terrestrial nature means the manifested part of it in the way the manifestation, the Shakti, that changing is the transfiguration.
Yes, that's a good explanation also. Yeah, that could stand, because the transfiguration is at the supramental level and the transfiguration is at the physical level. Yeah, that could be done. But we can also say that when mind is now full
There's so
of
many aspects, yes, Sumanta, there's so many aspects, but this is one thing which struck.
that's it. But that is certainly a valid way of looking at things. Okay, there is always a little bit of flexibility in these things, but certainly what you have said is also a possible way of looking at it. Certainly. Okay, then shall we stop here today? 8:36. Okay, I think we'll stop. So, a splitting up of the next what we'll do.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, au revoir, everybody.
Bonjour, bonjour.